ICYMI, the Justice Department sued former National Security Advisor John Bolton in an attempt to prevent him from publishing a memoir about his time in Donald Trump's White House. Sidebar, ICYMI on the internet means, in case you missed it. Clearly, I am very ITK, which means, of course, in the know. I actually didn't know that. Anyway, Trump had told reporters that Bolton would face quote-unquote criminal problems if he went forward with the book. On the same day the Justice Department made its move against Bolton official, the Daily Beast reported that Trump was weighing his legal options to stop his niece, Mary Trump, from publishing her own book, titled Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, understatement, that paints the president in, as you might guess, an unfavorable light. All this came right after the president made an unusual move against CNN when in early June, the Trump campaign sent a cease and desist letter to CNN asking for a national poll that showed Trump trailing former Vice President Joe Biden by 14 points to be retracted. The letter was immediately rejected by CNN, with General Counsel David Vigilante adding, quote, "To my knowledge, this is the first time in its 40-year history that CNN had been threatened with legal action because an American politician or campaign did not like CNN's polling results," end quote. Do not screw with David Vigilante. You notice a pattern here? Faced with declining political fortunes and with former advisors and even family turning against him, Trump lashes out legally. So what will come of these various threats, you ask? If past his prologue, not much. Because this, oh yeah, well I'm gonna sue you strategy isn't just a pattern of late. It's basically how Trump has dealt with annoying or troubling facts his entire life. As Michael Cruz wrote in Politico of Trump's litigiousness back in 2019, quote, "For nearly half a century, Trump has used lawsuits as cudgels and prods and publicity stunts. He and his wingmen have used them or threats of them to harass, to deflect, and to delay, to punish opponents and protect his brand, his money, his image, himself. Even in the face of losses, he has used them to find a way to wins. The difference now is that Trump's legal arsenal includes not just an array of personal attorneys, but the vast resources of the Department of Justice, which at times he has hoped would serve the same role as his most bare-knuckled advocates," end quote. Great writing there. According to an exhaustive study by USA Today, this is amazing, Trump and his businesses have been involved in more than 4,000 lawsuits going back more than 3 decades. It's a stunning number that serves as a testament to how the president, even before he was president, used the legal system when times were hard for him. Quote, "Does anyone know more about litigation than Trump? Huh?" Trump said of himself on the campaign trail in 2016, adding, "I'm like a PhD in litigation," end quote. Think back to that 2016 campaign when more than a dozen women came forward alleging that Trump had sexually harassed or assaulted them.
Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign. Total fabrication. The events never happened. Never. All of these liars will be sued after the election is over.
Update. He has filed a total of 0 lawsuits against any of the women. Or what about his lawsuit attempting to block the release of his tax returns to the New York grand jury, which was rejected by a federal judge last fall? Or his lawsuit to block House Democrats from gaining access to his financial records? Both cases have now been argued in front of the Supreme Court, with rulings expected sometime over the next few weeks. Or let's go all the way back, almost went off the screen there, to the early 1970s, when in response to the Department of Justice suing Trump and his dad, alleging racial discrimination in rental practices in buildings they owned in New York City, the Trump family hired Roy Cohn and countersued, tying up the process for years before arriving at a consent decree and not admitting guilt. As the New York Times wrote back in 2017 of that 1973 lawsuit, quote, "Trump's entire career has effectively been one long legal entanglement. He filed his first major lawsuit more than 40 years ago, and it was, in fact, a countersuit," end quote. What that first lawsuit taught Trump is that winning, legally speaking, didn't have to be the end goal. Lawsuits, whether or not Trump's side won, could be used to muddy the waters in the media, muddying the waters, or drag out expensive processes to the point where the other side either gave up or ran out of money. And even the threat of a lawsuit against an individual without the financial means that Trump enjoyed could spook that person into dropping their legal challenge altogether. Trump often used lawsuits more for their public relations impact than with any hope of actually winning legally. He wants to distract from bad news, and suing everyone under the sun is often the easiest way to do that in his own mind. Which brings us back to the present moment. Trump is at a low ebb in terms of his standing in state and national polls. His handling of the unrest triggered by the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis in May has alarmed even some of his staunchest allies. His attempts to portray coronavirus as a beaten disease are belied by the increasing cases in states across the country. He's headed for a raft of negative attention with the publication of the books by Bolton and his niece. Now, when backed into a corner like this, Trump sues, or at least threatens to sue. It's his security blanket, the way he makes himself feel as though he is fighting back and winning. Now, will it work this time? Seems unlikely Trump will win or even bring all the lawsuits he is threatening, has threatened, and will threaten. But again, winning isn't really the goal. Distraction and time buying is. And in that regard, Trump may get what he wants again. And that is the point. We make new point episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Be sure to check them all out.